Welcome back. In this chapter we will analyze what happens if black does not return his bishop to a7 and he will not play a6. Instead he wants to play bishop b6 and basically copy white plan. He will play knight e7, knight g6, later c6 and maybe even later d5. So after opening moves e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, castle, knight f6, d3, d6, c3, black plays bishop b6. If he plays first castle, white can play h3, and after bishop b6 we will just transpose to our line after move a4. So after bishop b6, here I think best white move is a4. Since black wants to play knight e7 and knight g6, white needs to prevent this. And move a4 is preventing because knight e7 is just losing a piece after a5 and bishop has no squares. Best move for black here is to play a6. He can castle or play h6, but eventually he will need to play a6 if he wants to put his knight to g6. So if h6, for example, knight bd2, castle, now h3 or rook e1 is possible, and black will have to play move h6. After a4, a6, here white has two promising options. The most logical move is knight bd2, and this is our main line, but instead white can choose another knight route with move knight a3. He wants to play knight c2, bishop e3, and end up with this knight on e3. Also, this knight is useful here because in some lines bishop can go to b3, and after knight c4 white will attack black bishop on b6. After knight a3, black can play knight e7, knight c2, castle, a5, bishop a7, bishop e3, and after bishop e3, knight e3, knight g6, we have some typical Italian position. White is slightly better, but black position is very solid. He wants to exchange some pieces with knight g4 or later even knight f4. So let's go back to the knight bd2. After knight bd2, black can castle or he can play knight e7. After knight e7, a5, bishop a7, rook e1, knight g6, knight f1. It's important that white is not in a hurry to play d4, because after d4 black can obtain some counterplay on the king side. Castle, h3, h6, and after queen c2, knight h5, and later knight f4 connected with queen f6. And this is unclear position. Instead of d4, white plays rook e1, knight g6, and knight f1. And later this knight will go to g3, and after h3 and bishop b3, then white will play d4. Black castles, knight g3, h6, h3, c6, and now bishop b3. If black plays here, for example, queen c7 or rook e8, then white can play d4, and he will obtain full control of the center. Later he will play bishop e3 and develop his queen. He can play bishop c2 or even queen c2 and connect his rooks. Black here can play d5 first, and after ed5 he must take with knight on d5, otherwise he is just losing pawn on e5. And now again we cannot take pawn on e5 because of the well-known trick bishop f2 and queen f6, so black is winning an exchange. Instead of after knight d5, white has a strong move, d4. Black is forced to take on d4 and white takes knight d4. And now we can see the advantages of pawn on a5. White has space advantage, and also his pieces are better developed because this bishop here is better than bishop on a7. And if black, for example, plays rook e8 opposing white rook, white can just take rook e8, queen e8, bishop d5, giving a bishop for knight, but black will have the isolated pawn, and after c takes d5, bishop e3, white has a long-term advantage. His goals are generally to change pieces, especially the dark squared bishop, and he's trying to change even one pair of knight to have position this knight against this bishop. And here black attacking chances are very small, so he has to be very careful. Instead of rook e8, after d5, he takes d5, knight d5, d4, he takes d4, knight d4, black can play queen f6, but this is not changing anything. After bishop d5, c takes d5, bishop e3, again black has isolated queen pawn, and he will suffer. This was move knight e7 immediately. Instead, black's main move is castle. Now h3. White is playing useful moves, and he's just waiting for black to play knight e7 so he can play a5. If black plays here h6, then just rook e1. And again, knight e7 just transposes to the position we have already seen. After bishop a7, knight f1, knight g6, knight g3. Instead of knight e7, black can play here bishop e6, which makes sense here because this bishop has square on a7. After bishop takes e6, f takes e6, knight c4, bishop a7. And black rook is on f file, and his bishop is also attacking the f2 square, so we must exchange this bishop by playing bishop e3. Bishop takes e3, rook takes e3. Rook will be here very useful to defend knight on f3 and pawn on h3, especially when black queens comes to g6. Queen e8, b4. White is stronger on the queen side, and he starts to attack with his pawns. b5, knight d2. Now queen g6, and now very solid defensive move, queen f1. And here black has very little resources to attack. He has only 3 pieces, and white here has 4 pieces in defense, and that's more than enough. If black plays, for example, knight h5, then white can play king h2 or just go back with the rook, because the queen of f1 is very good defensive piece, is defending on h3 and d3. And later, even after taking on b5, white can play d4 and this pawn will hang. After h6, rook e1, the best for black is to transpose to the main line and play knight e7, a5, bishop a7, knight f1, knight g6, knight g3, and we have already seen this position, and white here is slightly better. I have just shown you how to play against bishop b6, and I think move a4 is very good option for white. It's played rarely, and the idea is very simple to prevent black from playing knight e7, c6 and bishop c7, and in general in this line the pawn on a5 is very strong. and this is the white's main resource. White has won the space with this pawn on a5, and later, even in some positions after playing d4, his ideas can be take on e5 and play bishop e3, and he will always have slight advantage in the endgame. This was all about bishop b6 variation. Thank you for watching us.